If you struggle with toilet anxiety, I have something really exciting to share with you. And by toilet anxiety, I'm talking about the fear of not making it to a bathroom in time and worrying about pooping your pants, which are things that I struggled with for years. So on June 5th, I'm teaching a masterclass where I'm going to walk you through how you can finally get freedom from this debilitating fear. I'm going to be teaching you lots of practical and helpful insights, tips, and tools that will help you to start saying yes to things, whether or not a bathroom is nearby. So if you're like, yes, Shannon, I need this, simply head to the link in the show notes and I'll see you on June 5th. Welcome to a Healthy Push podcast. I'm Shannon Jackson, former anxiety sufferer turned adventurer, mom, and anxiety recovery coach. I struggled with anxiety, panic disorder, and agoraphobia for 15 years. And now I help people to push past the stuff that I used to struggle with. Each week, I'll be sharing real and honest conversations along with actionable and practical steps that you can take to help you push past your anxious thoughts, the symptoms, panic, and fears. Welcome. You're right where you're meant to be. All right, I am so excited for today's episode. I have Lauren here with me, and we are talking about one of my favorite topics, which is toilet anxiety. And I say it's my favorite topic, which is kind of weird because I swore that I would never talk about this, like not even to close family members and friends. And now it's just something that I openly talk about. And I'm so happy that I found someone else that also openly talks about toilet anxiety. So Lauren, welcome to a Healthy Push podcast. I am so happy to have you here. Can you just give us a quick can you just give us a quick intro to who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So I am a writer and a mum and a partner and someone who's struggled for a long time with the fear of what might happen if I don't make it to a bathroom in time. I developed panic disorder and agoraphobia in my mid-20s or early 20s, I would say. And along with panic attacks came this, incessant fear of just needing to go to the bathroom. And it's something that I've become really passionate about because of how much it took over my life. And so, yeah, among talking about agoraphobia and panic attacks and anxiety, I love to talk about the fear of needing to poo.
I love it. And I love that you are just so vulnerable and honest and open about it because, I know there are so many people like us, right, that have struggled, do struggle, absolutely at no cost will talk about it, not even with the people closest to them. And I did this for years, and I know that it made my journey so much harder than it had to be. And I carried so much shame and embarrassment. And I think conversations like this one are what actually helps people to start to work through some of that shame, embarrassment in a healthy way and just feel validated and heard and know that they're not crazy or weird and there's nothing wrong with you and it's okay that you have this fear going on. And so I'm so excited to dive into this conversation. So can you just tell us what did toilet anxiety look like for you?
Yeah, sure. So I developed IBS around the same time as I developed panic disorder, as I started having panic attacks. And I don't know if the IBS came first or if the anxiety came first because they can so often be intertwined. Yeah, like I said, started getting panic attacks in my mid-20s, and along with the panic attacks, I would, my stomach would gurgle and feel, it would just feel like liquid. And I would get this urge of needing to go to the bathroom. And if I couldn't get to a bathroom in time, I would get sweaty, I would panic, I would just be overwhelmed with this dread. And I would have to get to a bathroom. And sometimes it wasn't even like I had to go urgently. It was like I could go to the bathroom and sit there and then nothing would happen. But then as soon as I left the bathroom, it would overwhelm me again. And I'd be like, oh my God, I have to go back to the bathroom. And it was just this incessant burning in me of if I'm not near a toilet, then I'm not safe. And it overtook every aspect of my life. I stopped going out, I stopped going to work. I just became so obsessed with every sensation in my body, and does this mean I'm going to have epic diarrhea right now? And like you said, there was so much shame with talking about it. I refused to talk about it. I would just tell people that I felt sick, or I was scared that I was going to be sick. And yeah, I was so scared to admit it that I couldn't even admit it to myself a lot of the time.
Yeah. Oh, I know so many people can relate to that, myself included. And I'm glad that you said, if there's no toilet, I feel like I'm not safe. Cause I think that's, a lot of what this fear revolves around of like, if there's a toilet, I'm safe, I'm okay. And I think a
Mm,
lot of it is the same, right? With panic disorder and agoraphobia. Like, if there's an exit, I'm safe. If I'm not
mm,
too far from home, I'm safe. Like all these things, right? That convince us if I just have this, or, I'll be safe. And, being further from a toilet, you're just as safe, but it doesn't feel that way, of course, because of all the sensation symptoms that are popping up. So I'm glad that you touched on the IBS and panic, because you're like, I don't know which came first. And I know that a
mm,
lot of people struggle with IBS and they'll say similar things like, did the panic come first? Did IBS come first? And I think, I'm not going to totally dive into this because I have a whole thought process on IBS itself. But I think for a lot of people, when they start to struggle with anxiety and panic, they get a lot of the stomach sensations and symptoms, right? Like feeling like you have an upset tummy and cramping
mm,
and like all the things, and diarrhea and having the urgency to go to the bathroom. And I
mm.
think for a lot of people, that's because your nervous system is so dysregulated that it
Yeah.
makes sense that you have these sensations and symptoms going on. And, your mind and body are connected. So it's not really surprising that this is
Mhm.
an issue for you. And I don't know, I just don't always believe like, oh, this is IBS. I think a lot of times it's just because your nervous system is so haywire that
Mm.
it makes sense that these symptoms are popping up. But anyway, that's a
Yeah.
total sidetrack. So I love how you said, right? The thing that so many people say is, I'm so worried that I'm not going to make it in time. And
Yeah.
I would love to hear from you in the sense of, did that ever happen? Was there ever a time that you didn't make it in time?
Yeah. Yeah, I get asked that one a lot. And I used to be obsessed with that when I met people who had toilet anxiety, because I'm like, but did it ever happen to you? And I
Mhm.
thought that if they said yes, I was like, it's a confirmation of my fate, like it's gonna happen. Um, so when I first developed the fear of needing to go to the bathroom, I had never had an accident before. It was just it always felt like I was having a close call, and I guess that's what started the fear. But it was only 2 years ago that it actually happened to me, and I actually did have an accident. Um, and it's honestly a very, very funny story. And I can laugh about it now. At the time, it wasn't so great, but basically, I was sick, so it wasn't related to anxiety. It wasn't because I panicked. I had a stomach flu, and I I don't know how into detail I can go on this podcast, but basically, I trusted a fart when I shouldn't have. And
I love it.
yeah, and then it happened. The thing I'd been so scared of happened, and the funny thing is that it wasn't as awful as I thought it was going to be. I'd had this fear for so long, and it was so heavy in my body and my mind of like, what if, what if, what if, and trying to stop it from happening. And when it finally did happen, it wasn't such a big deal. It was uncomfortable, it was funny, it was embarrassing, but it just wasn't this hideous event that I had made it out to be. And I survived. Like the world kept turning afterwards. It was very strange.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think this goes back to like anticipatory anxiety, right? Like
Yeah.
so often we feel and the discomfort is so strong, before we're actually doing the thing. And I think that's because, right, like your brain can't understand and make the delineation of you're in the moment versus not. Like your brain doesn't actually recognize like where you are, what's going on. It's just basing everything off of your thoughts, how you're feeling, how you're responding to them. So, your
Mm.
brain is just like, oh my gosh, something is going down and like we need to do something about it. And, that anticipation, if you feed into it, right, can make it so overwhelming and cause the fear to just spiral out of control. When, like you
Mm.
said, in actuality, it's the same with panic and agoraphobia, right? You actually do the thing and then it's not so bad sometimes. And,
Yeah.
it's like toilet anxiety. It finally happened, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, this isn't as bad as I thought it would be, because you've had
Mm.
so long, right, of like building it up and like, what is it going to look like? How's it going to feel? Oh my gosh, is it going to be so embarrassing? Where's it going to happen? Like, all this stuff. And it's like,
Yeah.
whoa, wait, like it hasn't even happened.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. I love to say that the actual event pales in comparison to the things that we think about the event, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, for sure. So I'm curious. I know for me, it was very situational. For you, did
Mm.
you find that you had like the fear was stronger in certain situations or certain places, or was it just like constant?
It was barely around when I was just chilling out at home by myself. You know, if I had access to the bathroom and there was no one around, it was fine. I could go for hours without needing to go. I was, normal. But put me in a car, oh my God, like I could be a second down the street and I'd be like I've got to go, you know. Anywhere where there wasn't access to a toilet was just a no-go zone, and I would immediately need the bathroom. But also, your classic agoraphobia, panic disorder places like lines and waiting in the doctor's office and sitting in the dentist's chair, like any of those kind of places where I would have to say to someone, I need to go to the bathroom. I couldn't cope with that.
Yeah. I I'm so glad that you hit on that, because it's like the what ifs, right? That it goes back to the anticipatory anxiety, but like all the what ifs that you create. I totally get the dentist chair, right? Like I would do the thing of
Yeah.
like, what if the dentist comes right now and he's in my mouth and I have to go to the bathroom? Like, what do I
Yeah.
do? And just the like having to speak that out loud,
Mhm.
where right in like normal every day, if somebody were to like say to me, I have to go to the bathroom, I'd be like, oh, okay, like the bathroom's right there, go ahead. But for me, I
Mm.
was like, oh my gosh, I can't. Like I have to sit here and like I cannot have to go to the bathroom right now. Like that is
Yeah.
so, I mean, I know that so many people can relate to that. And the what ifs can really send you on that spiral, right? Like the more you go down that path, your brain always creates something bigger, better, different, like all the craziness. But I'm glad that you talked about the driving in the car, riding in the car, like, because I
Mm.
think that driving anxiety and toilet anxiety for a lot of people kind of go hand in hand, and they kind of get like, meshed. And the toilet anxiety can be a real driver of driving anxiety for many people. So
Mm.
you said something interesting, like if you were driving by yourself or in a car by yourself, like was this still a fear that was present, or was it only with other people being with you?
No, even if I was by myself in a car, it was still there because I didn't have access to a toilet.
Mm.
But definitely if I was in a car with someone else, I mean, for years I didn't even go in a car with someone else because that was, you know, pooping my pants on my own was embarrassing enough, but doing it
Right.
in front of someone, like, no, no.
Right. Right.
So
No
yeah,
way
and I
I'm even
know,
going to let that happen.
yeah, yeah, and a lot of people with agoraphobia would talk about having a safe person, and for me that was just such a bizarre concept because I didn't have a safe person because that fear of judgment was so strong. Like my boyfriend, my mom, whoever, it didn't matter. I don't want anyone to know that I have this fear, and so no one was a safe person for me.
Uh, yeah, same, same. like I hid it from my mom, who was I was closest to, right? Like she helped
Yeah.
me so much, but that one thing, I had
Mm.
others, but that one thing was like, nope, we don't share this. Like, I
Yeah.
will feel like I am going to poop my pants and I will not tell anyone. And I'm sure you did this too. I'd love to hear. You make up excuses. You
Mm.
say like the craziest stuff. I mean,
Yep.
I would make up anything and everything. I'd be like, oh, like I just, let's just go get a drink. Let's go to the gas station. Let's, some place that had a bathroom. I was like, any and all excuses to get me out of the car and like to quote safety, just in case I actually did have to go.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's funny. It was probably like the worst kept secret because, you know, the amount of time I spent going to a bathroom, running to a bathroom, trying to find a bathroom, talking about the bathroom without talking about it. I think everyone knew, like, obviously this girl's got a real issue around the bathroom. But with me, I was like, no one knows, you know?
Right. And it's like not, we make it to be this like such a natural thing. Like people go to the bathroom, like people have
Mm.
upset tummies sometimes, like people need to poop, like that's quite okay. So
Yeah.
I'm curious, of course, a lot of people have many safety behaviors relating to toilet anxiety. Like for some people, they'll take a change of clothes with them, they'll take medication, they'll restrict food, they'll
Mhm.
what are some things like some safety behaviors that you were very aware that you were doing in order to, keep yourself quote safe?
Yeah, all of the above. Um, and I would always have a sweater tied around my waist.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, the clothes that I would choose to wear, I would deliberately wear something really sort of plain and like I wouldn't draw attention to myself in any way. Um, Definitely, I used to take a lot of Imodium to try and like plug myself up if I had to go anywhere. Yeah, I got really strict with what I ate, what I drank. Um, yeah, I mean, it was everything. It was this web of restrictions that I was just completely wrapped up in, and it filtered into every single part of my life.
Yeah. It's the toughest thing, right? Because you kind of have that realization of like, or the, what you're doing, right? Like, that you're doing all these things in an effort for this one thing to not happen. But you
Mm.
also recognize that these things that you're doing are like feeding into the anxiety and the fear. Like,
Mhm.
I'm going to wear this sweater around my waist just in case this happens, which kind of
Mm.
just makes that fear like even more present that, you're
Mm.
preparing when you don't have anything to actually prepare for. But
Mm.
it feels like you're doing the right thing. It feels like, if I restrict and I take Imodium, if I do all these things, like it's going to prevent this thing from happening and then everything's going to be okay. And like always feeling like you need that control and
Mm.
trying to control everything right tends to just make you feel even more in control.
Out of control. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to do this thing before I would leave the house if I did leave the house, which was rare. Um, but I would go to the toilet again and again and again. I'm talking like 10 times in the space of 2 minutes, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I would get up having just finished and then I'd sit back down again. And then I worried that I was training my body to need to go so many times. And I was like, this behavior that I'm doing to avoid needing to pee more or pooping more is making me need to go more. Like, and
Yeah.
I felt trapped. I felt like I couldn't escape, this, it was going to be like a self-fulfilling prophecy that the more I thought about it, the more likely it was to happen.
Right. So I'm curious because I know that you struggled with panic and agoraphobia, and there were other aspects. When you say like that you didn't go to work, that you stopped doing a lot of things, was that more centered around this one fear, this toilet anxiety, or was there more to it than that?
Um, it's hard to say. I think so much of it was centered around toilet anxiety, but I also, um, when I was housebound, I didn't have quite a good understanding of really what agoraphobia was, what panic disorder was. Um, so yeah, it's kind of hard to know like what bits were toilet anxiety and what bits were other anxieties. Um, but for the most part, because of how much fear manifests for me as stomach issues, I think it yeah, that was the thing that held me back the most.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It kind of all just goes to toilet anxiety because I know, like, for me, a lot of it was if my stomach felt a little bit off, upset,
Mm,
like rumbly, anything, it would immediately like lead to the thoughts of, oh my gosh, like, what if you have to go to the bathroom? What if something happens? And
yeah.
there was more intertwined with it, but my brain more often went there because one of the biggest symptoms that I felt when I was anxious was my stomach feeling upset. Like it was so much driven by digestive symptoms. And I
Yeah.
think that's the hard part is the symptoms are real, like they're
Mhm.
actually happening. And I think that's so often, right, why people get this IBS diagnosis is because it's like, you've had all this testing done and they can't find anything else that's necessarily wrong, and so it's like, well, you have IBS, and it's like, well, but yeah, maybe there's more to it than that. But so I'm curious, and I know many people are probably very curious, like, can you just ask what the heck helped her? So what are some big things that looking back now you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I didn't know that, or I can't believe I didn't do that sooner, or like what are a couple of things that really really helped you to start working through this fear?
Mhm. The main one was, uh, I guess, talking about it. I think that was the first thing that I really did. Um, when I made a video called "Let's Talk Toilet Anxiety" very early on, and it was the hardest thing for me to do because talking about this fear, and I was going to do it on YouTube. I was like, "Am I crazy? What am I thinking? What's my boyfriend going to say?" Like, just I couldn't believe I was going to do it, but I needed to get it out of my body. I needed a place to put this fear that wasn't my own head. Um, and I'd spoken to a couple of people on Instagram, and I knew that they had the same fear, but they didn't want to talk about it either, just from, little tidbits that they'd said. And so I'm like, someone's got to talk about this, and it's going to be me, and I'm going to do it. And so I spoke about it on YouTube, and I didn't have a very popular YouTube channel. I would get like my mom would watch my videos maybe. And there wasn't a lot of views, but the toilet anxiety video just sort of took off, and so many comments of people saying I thought I was the only one. Oh my God, I can't believe this is a thing. I just thought it was something weird that I had. And it just every comment where someone said, I thought this was only me, it took that fear away a little bit for me because I didn't feel so alone and I didn't feel like a weirdo. And then taking that shame away from it, taking that sense of like, I can't talk about this, going from that to thinking I can talk about this, that was probably the thing that helped the most out of all of it, was just finally just letting it have space to breathe.
Yeah.
um yeah, but then I guess getting more in touch with my body as well was a huge one. Like starting a yoga practice and things like that, like that's good anyway. Um, you know, Healthy eating. I say healthy, like I don't eat bars of chocolate every day, which I do. But yeah, healthy eating, yoga, things like that. Learning how to respect my body and how to love my body and not be ashamed of my body, that was a huge one as well.
Mm,
And I guess those two combined were the main ones, which is annoying because people always want to know, like, what's an actionable step I can take now to stop this?
right.
And there isn't, like you said before, there's not a magic trick,
Yeah.
It's like it's an unlearning and a relearning.
Oh, you hit the nail on the head with that. It is. It's such an unlearning and a relearning of like how to, listen to your bodily cues, how to
Mm,
respond in a healthy way to what you're feeling. Like how to, better have a healthy dialogue with yourself, like just how to
Yeah.
make healthier choices. Like all these things are so, so important. But we do. When I struggled with this, I was like, there's gotta be something that I'm missing, right? Like
Yeah.
somebody's gotta have a fix to this. Like,
Yeah.
but I mean that other, like you said, I didn't talk about it and I didn't share it. So how the hell would I ever have found something that would have helped me? Who
Mm.
knows? But you know, we we don't talk about it. And I had such a similar experience, right? Like you finally talk about it, and it's like a lot of the power that it had over you slowly starts to go away. And it's not that it
Yeah.
fixes it, right? It's not that it like magically makes you no longer have the fear, but it takes a lot of the weight of the fear off of your
Mm.
shoulders, especially in those instances, right? Where you're like, I've got to hide this at all costs. Like nobody can know what's going on with me right now. And
Yeah.
instead, just being able to say, like, I feel really anxious right now and I feel like I have to go to the bathroom. I don't need you to do anything. Like, I want to keep going. I'm not going to, pull off and go to the bathroom. You know, I think just being able to have the validation, like you said, of I'm not crazy. There's not something really messed up about me. I'm not weird. Like many, many people struggle with this. It
Yeah.
might be a little silly, right? But like it's a totally valid fear. Even though it's silly, it's totally valid. And you being able to share it is going to help you immensely. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think like it's so good acknowledging, right? There's typically people think they're just missing something, right? There's got to be a fix, a solution,
A green
something.
smoothie.
Yeah, yeah, right. Like somebody knows something that I don't know. And then unfortunately, I
Yeah.
think people get kind of really far down the rabbit holes of trying all these things, changing their diets, like restricting and like making all these changes that they're like, something's going to stick, something's going to be helpful. And then what you end up doing is like just putting way more emphasis on it and
Mhm.
creating more anxiety surrounding it. So it's like it's such a struggle because too, I think with toilet anxiety, I'd love to hear your thoughts. This was one of the fears for me that hung around the longest because I had built such an emphasis on it. It was the thing that was like bigger, greater than many other fears that I had. And so it stuck
Mm.
around for quite a while. But I think it's
Mhm.
because, like you said, I had so much unlearning and relearning to do. And
Yeah.
that was really hard to just be like, all right, I can't like flip a switch, right? I can't do one thing and like fix this.
Yeah. Yeah. I you know how people would say like there's no need to fear a panic attack because a panic attack can't kill you.
Right.
I used to be like, I don't care. I'm not scared of dying. I'm just scared of pooping myself. Like, tell me that's not going to happen. You can't guarantee it. Um,
Right.
and yeah, I was the same. I put so much emphasis on it, and like I've been honest about my issues with agoraphobia for years now, but it's only recently that I've been totally transparent about toilet anxiety. And I initially started out by saying I needed to pee all the time. Like that was my toilet anxiety
Mm.
because I didn't want to say the poo
Yeah.
part. But yeah, it unwound itself from me the more that I leaned into it, and the more that I explored the idea of like, what do I think of me? If I have an accident, if I don't make it to the bathroom in time, what do I really think of me? And at the end of the day, it wasn't that I'm weird or that I'm shameful or that I'm embarrassing. It was that I still love me, and I would treat me the same way that I treat my daughter when or daughters. Sorry, I've got a 4 month old, so I'm not used to saying daughters yet. If they were scared, I would love them. I would embrace them. Why was I not going to do that to myself with the thing
Mm.
that I was most frightened of? And so I've really learned to come from that place of like nurturing myself through that fear and just saying, you know what, if you have an accident today, you're still a great human. You're okay. You're safe.
Oh, I love that so much. Like that self-compassion, that,
Mm.
nurturing yourself like you would a child. it sounds so silly, right? Because I think some of the things sometimes with toilet anxiety, panic, agoraphobia, we think like that is not going to be helpful. Like I am
Yeah.
struggling with this really serious stuff. Can you please give me something that's actually going to be helpful? But that stuff is so helpful when you change the
Mm.
way that you approach yourself, when you change the way that you talk to yourself, like so much of the game changes. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. And I'm also glad that you mentioned the pee versus pooping because, toilet anxiety isn't just the pooping. Like so many people struggle too with worrying about peeing and feeling like they have to pee all the time. And like
Yeah.
it's so similar in the sense like I go 10 times before I leave the house. And, some people like it's not just the change of clothes, like they'll wear a diaper. Like there are so many things. And I mean, it's regardless, right? I've worked with plenty of people who struggle with the pee anxiety. And it's so cute because they'll say to me, Shannon, I know you struggled with the pooping, and I'm so glad that I don't struggle with that. And I'm like, oh, it's
Yeah,
they're
thanks.
both right. Thanks. They're both equally as difficult because, you know, yes, pooping your pants is probably more embarrassing than peeing your pants because, I think peeing your pants, you'd be like, haha, like I peed my pants. But I think both of them really like what it comes down to is like the uncertainty of what what does it look like if it happens? How am I going to feel? How are the people that I'm with going to feel? Like what is it going to look like? Are people going to judge me? Like, and
Yeah.
all the uncertainty of it, right? Like, okay, I can sit with this uncertainty. I don't like it. Like, but me trying to guarantee that I'm not going to have to pee or poop is a waste of my time. Like, has this ever gotten me anywhere, right? Like, me trying to plan, prepare, figure out, has this ever gotten me anywhere? Like, no. So, how about, I remember a time when I was in the car and I had one of those, like, oh no, I think you really have to go. Cause I would
Yeah.
play the game of like, do I really have to go? Like,
Yes. Yeah.
and I remember like getting to this, full force panic attack and being like, nope, like I have to go. And there was no, like my husband, we were dating at the time, he like pulled over because I was just like, I need to just get out of the car. I need you to pull over. And so he like pulled over to this like just empty space. And I was like, no, like I need you to go to like
Yeah.
a gas station or something. Like I need a bathroom. And he was like, well, you didn't say that. And like he had no idea at the time that this is something that I struggled with, but it was like, just the weight, the pressure I put on myself of like, you can't even have to go to the bathroom. Like if you actually have to go, like, I'm sure you've done that too. It's just like, I feel like I have to go. Do I have to go? I'm not going to go. Like, and then you actually do. And it's just like, oh my gosh, like just go to the freaking bathroom. Like, it's okay. If you didn't actually
Yeah.
have to go, and you did, it's not the end all be all. Like, you're not going to not work through this fear, but like putting so much pressure on yourself to like, make the quote right decision or do the right thing. It's just so silly. But
Yeah. I I can relate so hard to that. And I remember saying to my partner, I said, when I say to you, I think I need to go to the bathroom, I know it sounds very casual, but I can guarantee you that if I say it, I am at peak. Like I've been stressing about it for the last half hour and I am about to lose my freaking mind. Like, find me a bathroom now. And
yeah.
he's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's something with when you say those words, or when you even when I go to a bathroom, sometimes if I'm panicking, I said in an Instagram post recently that I feel like it's like the point of no return. Like once I'm in there, I'm like, oh God, things are gonna get real from here. Like,
Right.
and I
Right.
spend so much time in bathrooms that it's almost like a trigger place for me now. I don't want to be in there anymore. Um, so yeah, there's a whole lot of relearning about the fact that the bathroom is just a neutral place, you know? It's not somewhere bad, it's not somewhere good, it's just somewhere where you just pee or poop and then you get out and you go on your way.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. So, I know there are probably many, many people who are like, just, I thank you for sharing this and being vulnerable because this is something that, I thought nobody else struggled with. So that's huge in and of itself that you're sharing this, but I'm curious, what would you say to those people who are really struggling right now with toilet anxiety and they don't know what to do? They don't, they feel like they've tried everything and they're never going to get past this fear. What would you say
Mhm.
to that person?
I would say, please let yourself be human. Like, stop trying to hold yourself to this impossible standard. Um, you know, like you said, when our fear response kicks in, our digestive system, kicks up a stink. It goes a bit crazy, and that's human. And it's human to fear shame. It's human to fear discomfort. Those things are all so human. And like, it's such a waste of time trying to um trying to hide yourself from those feelings and desperately wanting to be normal when everything that you're feeling is actually super, super normal. There's nothing more normal than the survival instinct and the fight or flight response and the things our body does in order to stay safe. Um, so go easy on yourself, be loving towards yourself, and know that you aren't alone. There are so many people who have that same fear. And it doesn't have to be something that just weighs heavily on you and you alone. There are people who are willing to share that fear with you and who want to talk about it. So yeah, find those people. I'm one of them. Um, and yeah, just go easy on yourself, please. Please.
I love that. Thank you. And we are both Lauren and I, we can tell you are totally okay with being known for the people who were scared to poop their pants for a very long time. We are totally
Yeah.
fine with talking about it. So,
Yeah.
and because I think it brings such a different perspective, right? Of like, oh, like Lauren and Shannon are very, quote, normal people. Like I maybe not the most normal. I'm a little weird, but that's okay. But like, there are very normal people who move about the world, who have jobs, who have families, who, all this stuff and maybe struggle with some pretty silly things. And that's okay. So if
Yeah.
people want to find and connect with you, Lauren, and talk about the fear of pooping their pants, where can they find you?
I am on Instagram at Lauren_Rose. You can find me on YouTube if you search Lauren Rose. If you search toilet anxiety, I'll probably come up too. And you can soon find me in bookstores too, because my first book's coming out soon. I think maybe at the end of this year or the start of next year. Um, but yeah, please feel free to
Yay.
contact me if you want someone to talk to.
Yay. That's so exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on the podcast, Lauren. We really appreciate it. And thank you for being so, so vulnerable.
Thank you so much for having me. It was an absolute delight.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of A Healthy Push. If you want more, head on over to ahealthypush.com for the show notes and lots more tips, tools, and inspiration that will support your recovery. And if you're hoping for me to cover a certain topic, be sure to join my Instagram community at A Healthy Push and let me know in the comments what you want to hear next.